Now we will turn to the efficacy results. From a pre-specified primary analysis, we are thrilled to report a clinically meaningful mean SALT reduction from baseline at week 36 of 35.3% in the MITT population. These data demonstrate clear and sustained hair regrowth as patients progressed on the study, with deepening responses over time and no evidence of plateau. We notably saw robust hair regrowth in both severe and very severe populations. Looking at the severe population only, we saw a mean SALT reduction of 37.8 at week 36. In the very severe population, we saw a mean SALT reduction of 27.4% at week 36, a strong outcome in this more difficult to treat group. Shown here is the waterfall plot of the change in SALT score from baseline, with the SALT 20 responders identified on the right. We see clinically meaningful achievement of SALT 20 at week 36 in both severe patients, shown in blue, and very severe patients, shown in green. In the MITT population, we observed a 40% SALT 20 rate and a 30.3% SALT 20 rate in the most conservative ITT population. We believe this is a profound result for a biologic with only 36 weeks of treatment, and combined with its well-tolerated safety profile, positions bempikibart as a potential leading treatment option in alopecia areata. Beyond the robust SALT 20 responses we observed, bempikibart demonstrated clinically meaningful efficacy on additional analyses measuring proportional hair regrowth in patients. On this slide, we presented both the MITT and the most conservative ITT population for both the 30 and 50% responders. In both populations, we see clinically meaningful results. Collectively, these results have the potential to set the bar for biologic efficacy in alopecia areata. Now we'd like to share a few case studies from SIGNAL-AA Part B that really illustrate the therapeutic potential of bempikibart, including its durability and the impact it can have on patients. First, we highlight a 48-year-old female with severe alopecia areata and a duration of current episode of more than a year at entry. As you can see, this patient achieved a robust response, which was maintained off drug, achieving SALT 10 at week 24 and week 36, deepening to 100% SALT reduction at week 44, our first SALT 0. This patient is currently enrolled in the open label extension. This is a compelling example of the potential of bempikibart to regrow hair and impact the quality of life of patients with alopecia areata. Next, we'd like to highlight a unique example on the potential of bempikibart to meaningfully impact patients. Shown here is a 33-year-old female with severe alopecia areata and a duration of current episode of 1.4 years, who notably had previously received JAK inhibitor treatment. This patient experienced a robust response, achieving SALT 20 at week 24 and SALT 10 at week 32. Ultimately, this patient decided to hold on dosing at week 32 to focus on family planning, consistent with trial guidelines. While the patient is no longer taking study drugs, she is continuing to have off-drug follow-up visits. We are encouraged by the durability seen in this patient's off-drug follow-up, highlighting the unique nature of the lasting effects of bempikibart. Importantly, while the safety of bempikibart in the context of pregnancy has not yet been clinically evaluated, based on its mechanism of action and the experience of biologics in other indications, bempikibart may have the potential to be an option in the future for this critical unmet need in alopecia areata patients of childbearing age. On slide 16, we see a 41-year-old female with severe alopecia areata with a duration of current episode of 2.5 years. This patient experienced a robust response on treatment, achieving SALT 20 at week 36 and a continuing response off drug, achieving SALT 10 in the off-drug period. This patient is now enrolled in the open label extension. Rounding out our example case studies, we see a 32-year-old male with very severe alopecia areata and a duration of current episode of 3.2 years. Despite having a baseline SALT score of 100 and a longer duration of episode, this patient experienced a robust SALT 20 at week 36, and importantly, his hair growth was maintained through the off-drug follow-up period. This patient is now enrolled in the open label extension. These case studies and more from Part B demonstrate clearly the potential of bempikibart to regrow hair with durable responsiveness, which can have a meaningful, long-lasting impact on the lives of patients with alopecia areata. In addition to the robust efficacy results, bempikibart was also observed to be well tolerated, consistent with our prior clinical studies. There were no new safety signals observed, and all adverse events were mild to moderate, with no serious grade 3 or higher adverse events reported. Overall, we observed a mean 35 to 40% reduction in absolute lymphocyte count, consistent with an on-target mechanism that stabilizes around 24 to 28 weeks. And importantly, no relationship was observed between lymphocyte reductions and infection. The most common treatment-emergent adverse event was injection site reaction, which occurred in approximately 36% of patients. It is important to note that the majority of these patients experienced singular events, resulting in an incidence of injection site reaction of only 4% across all Part B dose administrations. All ISRs were mild and resolved with no intervention, with the majority resolving within a day. Importantly, there were no discontinuations related to safety findings. With results across our SIGNAL-AA Phase 2 program in hand, we are encouraged by the differentiated target product profile emerging for bempikibart and believe it could redefine the long-term management of alopecia areata. First, today's outcome has the potential to set the bar for biologics across efficacy, safety, and durability in this indication, bringing us one step closer to delivering a meaningful biologic option in the sole I&I condition where the only advanced option is JAK inhibitors. With this data, we have greater confidence that our IL-7 and TSLP inhibitory mechanism can deliver both meaningful efficacy while not sacrificing safety, an important balance not fully achieved by JAK inhibitors. Further, bempikibart's profile provides flexibility ideal for the management of this lifelong condition, including the potential for a durable response, expectations for a step down to less frequent chronic dosing, and future options for at-home dosing supported by our flat 200 milligram dosing. Taken together, we believe bempikibart's profile is positioned for both first-line use and market leadership in alopecia areata. Now, I will turn the call back over to Lee to discuss the unmet need, landscape, and commercial opportunity in alopecia areata. Lee?
Thanks, Jody. Alopecia areata currently affects approximately 700,000 people in the United States and can have significant life-altering comorbidities, including deterioration of quality of life and psychosocial impact. It can affect people of all ages and can be particularly devastating for children and adolescents and their families, as well as women of childbearing age. Despite this significant population size, there are no approved options for patients with moderate disease and very few options for patients with severe and very severe disease. As mentioned, alopecia areata is one of the few I&I indications where there is no available biologic option. Yet, there are 3 available JAK inhibitors. We partnered with IQVIA to conduct a survey of 50 dermatologists, which included questions on the areas of current unmet need. The survey results identify the need for therapies with an improved safety profile, that is, products with no black box warning and minimal lab monitoring. Safety concerns and ongoing monitoring are hallmarks of treatment with oral JAK inhibitors. Dermatologists also rate better durability of effectiveness as a key unmet need. The quotes on the left are also from our market research work conducted by IQVIA. These underscore the findings we just mentioned. Patients are currently forced to choose between benign but often ineffective topical agents, painful injections, or oral systemic JAK inhibitors, which carry a class-wide black box warning. There are no approved options that provide meaningful and durable efficacy with the expected safety of a targeted biologic. Ultimately, some patients opt for JAK inhibitors despite the side effect risks, and yet they still lose their hair if they go off treatment, usually within weeks. Others stay on ineffective therapies, such as topicals, or seek off-label use of therapies, usually with minimal efficacy. Some patients avoid treatment altogether. Ultimately, it is clear from market research that a safe biologic delivering durable, long-term responsiveness would have the potential to transform the treatment paradigm for alopecia areata as a preferred first-line treatment. Turning to the commercial opportunity, despite the lack of safe and efficacious therapies, as well as patient hesitancy to pursue treatment with JAK inhibitors, The alopecia areata market has continued to show strong growth as demand for systemic therapies grow. From 2022 through 2025, estimated U.S. net sales of JAK inhibitors in alopecia have steadily grown. In 2026, oral JAK inhibitors are expected to achieve approximately $500 million in U.S. net sales. The alopecia areata market is expected to grow substantially by 2037, with a prevalence growing to approximately 800,000 patients and 300,000 patients treated with advanced therapies in the U.S. Based on our work with IQVIA, we forecast a total U.S. market opportunity of at least $5 billion in 2037. Now, I will turn the call back over to Jody for closing remarks. Jody?
Thanks, Lee. To summarize, bempikebart's differentiated target product profile supports the potential to become standard of care as an efficacious, durable, and safe targeted biologic therapy for the treatment of alopecia areata. Across our SIGNAL-AA program, we established proof of concept with durable responses and safe redosing in Part A, observed meaningful efficacy data in Part B, and observed a favorable safety and tolerability profile with low ISR rates across the full program. We plan to share the full results from Part B at a future medical meeting. Taken together, we believe this data supports advancement into a registration-directed program, which we intend to initiate in the first half of 2027, following planned regulatory discussions. With this success in severe and very severe alopecia areata, we believe there is expansion opportunity in moderate and pediatric alopecia areata patients, and based on bempikebart's mechanism, that there are opportunities in a broad range of additional T-cell-mediated I&I indications. Collectively, we believe the SIGNAL-AA program represents a foundation for a compelling, multi-billion-dollar bempikibart franchise in alopecia areata and beyond. We will begin our question and answer session shortly, but before we open the line, I'd like to once again thank Arash for being with us today and ask first if he can provide his perspective on the unmet need in alopecia areata and for his thoughts on the Part B data.
Thank you, Jody. Before I give you my thoughts on the bempikibart data, I think it would be helpful to give a lay of the land with regard to the current therapeutic landscape in alopecia areata. First of all, I'm excited that there is a therapeutic landscape. Before 2022, there were no FDA-approved medications for AA, and historically used medications were often toxic with very low success rates. Since 2022, we've had 3 FDA approvals, all JAK inhibitors, with a potential 4th JAK inhibitor likely to be approved next year. While the introduction of JAK inhibitors has been revolutionary, the same hesitance that restricts the use of JAK inhibitors throughout dermatology also exists in the treatment of alopecia. Prescribers are hesitant to prescribe these medications, and while patients want treatment, they balk at the black box warning, which specifically mention risk of cancer, cardiac events, venous thromboembolism, and even death. Their enthusiasm around wanting to treat their hair loss wanes when they learn that JAK inhibitors are a chronic long-term treatment where missing even a few doses can lead to recurrence of their hair loss, not to speak of the ongoing need for close monitoring and laboratory evaluation. Increased data on the medium-term safety of JAKs, while promising, has done little to change the general beliefs that these medications can be dangerous. Although I prescribe JAK inhibitors on a daily basis and encourage their use for patients with alopecia areata, it's clear that similar to atopic dermatitis, a targeted biologic option for treatment would be favored by both prescribers and patients. Based on the data we just reviewed, I think bempikibart has the potential to set the standard as a biologic agent with JAK-like efficacy that retains the safety profile familiar to dermatologists who have been prescribing biologic therapies for years. On top of that, we have early hints of durability with the potential for deepening responses over time. Let me walk through each of these categories in greater detail. Let's start with what's most important, efficacy. Whether you're using the pre-specified modified intention to treat or even a straight ITT analysis, we're seeing, for the first time in a biologic therapy, JAK-like efficacy at 36 weeks. Based on this data, without stepping on the durability potential, I think we're seeing the tip of the iceberg for response. And looking at the pictures in the deck from patients who are still improving after completing their 36 weeks on therapy, it's clear that even deeper response is possible. Whenever you look at efficacy, it's important to consider who is in this study, which for me is one of the most exciting aspects of this data. Patients with both severe, meaning SALT 50 to 95 or 50 to 95% overall hair loss, and patients with very severe or SALT greater than 95% hair loss, both regrew hair. JAK-naive patients did well, as did patients who previously responded to JAK therapy. suggesting that in addition to being a first-line agent, this drug may have potential as an off-ramp for patients who have had success with a JAK inhibitor but who would like to switch. From a safety standpoint, no new signals or other concerns were identified in this trial. High retention rates were seen. ISRs were low, only 4% of injections, and very mild, all resolved without intervention. This profile suggests a clean safety profile that, if validated in phase 3, will not have a black box warning and should have minimal to no monitoring, correcting for two of the main challenges I mentioned before with the prescription of JAK inhibitors. With regard to durability, the results out to 52 weeks suggest not just maintenance, but deepening response off therapy. In the real world, I anticipate that patients will continue on their medication for longer than 36 weeks, so this efficacy will likely be amplified. In the future, this profile suggests that extended dosing regimens should be explored for patients. I'm really excited to see how well these patients do with additional time to grow hair. To summarize, I have tremendous enthusiasm for this drug and its potential. It's important to think of this drug not as the fourth or fifth potential approved drug in alopecia areata, but as one with the potential to be the first targeted biologic for alopecia that provides a much-desired alternative to JAK inhibitors. The totality of the data set suggests strong efficacy with a well-tolerated safety profile and emerging signs of durability, which are really what differentiate bempikibart. If these results bear out the way we're hoping in a phase 3 trial, this should be the first-line treatment for patients with alopecia areata.
Thank you, Arash, for your thoughtful perspective. Now we'll open the call line for questions, either for us or for Arash. Operator?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Should you have a question, please press the star followed by the 1 on a touch-tone phone. Should you wish to cancel your request, please press the star followed by the 2. If you are using a speakerphone, please lift the handset before pressing any keys. Once again, that is star 1 should you wish to ask a question. Your first question is from Jay Olson from Oppenheimer. Your line is now open.
Oh, hey guys, congrats on these landmark results and kudos to the Q32 team for the tenacity to make this happen. We had a couple questions. The loading regimen appears to have achieved the intended PK goal. Can you talk about how much the improved efficacy you would attribute to earlier target engagement with the loading dose versus simply treating the patients longer? And is this the current regimen essentially the one that you envision taking into pivotal development? And then I have follow-up if I could, please.
Thanks so much, Jay. So yes, this is the dosing regimen we would anticipate taking into the phase 3 program. I would indicate we're not yet fully able to evaluate what the contribution of the loading regimen versus the 36-week regimen are, but collectively we believe this achieves our goals.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then I guess what are the key remaining questions to resolve before initiating your pivotal studies? And can you just comment on how you expect your interactions with regulators to evolve based on these impressive Part B results today? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I think ultimately we'll hold on any specifics on the future design of a phase 3 program, but our expectation would be we would have an end of phase 2 meeting by the end of this year where we would discuss those details. Obviously, there's precedent within the space for a single phase 3. We intend to leverage that given what we're seeing here in both safety and efficacy, and look forward to providing more detail to the market as soon as we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll look forward to that. Congrats again on these impressive results, and thanks for the update and taking the questions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Your next question is from Imogen Mansfield from Cantor. Your line is now open.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Congratulations, QTTV team. Great to see these data out. 2 questions from me. The first one is about the 3 patients with unstable disease in the MITT. Could you tell us a little bit more about those patients? Did we know that they had alopecia areata? I know that you had quite an extensive central review. And then the second question is, did you see any biomarker trends for response to therapy? For example, patients with high IgE at baseline?
Yeah, let's take the latter first from Sheila, and then I can address the unstable disease. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Imogen. Thanks for the question. Yeah, so we've been monitoring various biomarkers in the trial. We have data now on TARC, IgE, and eosinophils. We're seeing really tremendous reductions in those eosinophils as a good biomarker of inhibiting Th2 responses. We are seeing responses sort of across the board in patients that are showing reductions in Th2 biomarkers, but also in patients that are not high for these biomarkers at baseline. We're going to be doing some further analysis on biomarkers to see if there's anything else that can give us an indication. But I think what it has allowed us to do is show replications that we're fully engaging the receptor, as we can see by PK levels, but also by these various biomarker changes.
Thanks.
Yeah, and thanks for the questions, Imogen. Appreciate it. I think on the unstable disease, we had pre-specified criteria within the statistical analysis plan for the program regarding patients who showed an increase in hair loss over the initial period in the trial. If they lost more than 25%, they were predefined as unstable and removed from the analysis. So we had 3 such patients in this data set, 2 of which were patients who came in with patient-reported stability but had no medical records. They were local ad campaign patients, and so they did not have medical records. Certainly a lesson for us in making sure there's confirmation of stability coming into these trials in the future. The 3rd patient had a long history of NASH and had an exacerbation of their NASH during that time, which we believe triggered a flare, which caused hair loss at that time. So those were the 3 that were removed.
Okay, very helpful. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Your next question is from Joe Catanzaro from Mizuho. Your line is now open.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for taking my questions, and congrats on the great data as well here. Maybe first question from me. I know maybe patient numbers get a little bit small, but wondering if you could speak to the efficacy you're observing in the subgroup of patients with prior JAK inhibitor therapy versus those who are JAK naive, and would expectations moving forward be to continue to allow patients with prior JAK onto future studies? And then the second question, I guess on opportunities outside of alopecia, wondering if there's specific indications that you think alopecia maybe provides the best read-through to, and maybe somewhat related to the last question, whether there are biomarker changes you're seeing that give you the most conviction in these additional opportunities, any specific ones? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll take the JAK experience one first and then hand off to Sheila. So what I would say is we saw strong, clinically meaningful responses across some of the patients who were JAK experienced. We still are doing an analysis of the full data set there, and we certainly want to see the 52-week data for these patients as well. So we'll provide more of that at a future medical meeting, but what I would say is we had a series of patients who were post-JAK that responded quite well. So we're encouraged by that finding. We think that bodes well long-term for the program and look forward to providing a little bit more analysis on that in the future. Want to add anything to that, Arash?
Yeah, I think this is a key differentiator in this study. Other alopecia areata studies usually exclude patients that have JAK exposure, and particularly thinking about the avenue in real life for patients who may have had success with JAK inhibitors, but who may want an off-ramp to something else, whether it's for family planning, as was highlighted in one of our patients. They're tired of taking JAK inhibitors or just want something a little bit different that has a different safety profile. I think this is a really unique aspect of this that we should highlight, and would be a wonderful opportunity for clinicians and patients looking for an alternative to medications they're currently on.
So as for future indications, certainly there's a wealth of opportunity for bempikibart outside of alopecia areata, both within dermatology and beyond. I'll let Sheila speak to the sort of mechanism and the biomarkers and some of the areas we're thinking of expanding in, but we're not advising on the next indication at this time, although we're doing some preliminary work to refine our thinking on that over time.
Yeah, so thanks for the question, because I think it's an important one. I think what our data are now highlighting is that inhibiting the IL-7 receptor alpha subunit is now providing clinical validation in a disease that we know is driven by pathogenic T effector cells, particularly CD8 positive and NKG2D positive T cells. So I think this data set would suggest that there are other indications where we are generating data to look at IL-7 receptor expression on T cells in the dermatology space that we also know are driven largely by T effector cells. This could include things like lichen planus, it could include things like vitiligo, and then there are a number of other diseases, as you are probably well aware, that are driven by active T cells, such as celiac disease, MS, type 1 diabetes, a lot of big indications. But I think what's also really important about this data set is the replication of our ability to inhibit Th2 biomarkers. I think we've put to rest that the IL-7 receptor antibody is not only impacting T cells, but it has the ability to inhibit Th2 responses. We're seeing beautiful reductions in TARC, IgE, and eosinophils. It really opens up the door for respiratory indications and the potential for other indications, maybe in the skin as well, that are believed to be driven by Th2 responses.
Great. Thanks so much for taking my questions, and congrats again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Your next question is from Joe Pantginis from H.C. Wainwright. Your line is now open.
Hi, this is Josh on for Joe. Congrats on the really exciting data. So I had two questions for you guys. So for the first, I was wondering how you view this data relative to historical Olumiant and Litfulo data. And the second question is, how do you feel that this current data set, do you feel it supports first-line positioning, or do you feel like you would need to wait for a larger randomized study to be able to make that call?
Thanks so much for the questions. I'm going to let Arash go on this one, and certainly can add some color at the back end.
Sure. So in regards to comparing this data against existing data for Olumiant and for Litfulo, the data here is in the range of the Olumiant 2 to 4 milligram data at 36 weeks. All of these medications show initial improvement in one group of patients, then deepening over time, which I think is the pattern that we're seeing here. So there's no head-to-head, and it's hard to draw an exact conclusion. But I think as a clinician, it's easy to say that these are in the same vicinity and that there's not a major sacrifice being made with regards to efficacy if one was to select this medication over a JAK inhibitor. Of course, every patient might be a little bit different. For the second indication about where this drug would lie in regards to first or second line, I think this is where shared decision-making with the patient is critical. If we look across dermatology at other indications, and maybe the easiest one to look at is atopic dermatitis, when patients and clinicians are given a choice of a targeted biologic therapy versus a JAK inhibitor, even if there are numerical advantages with regards to efficacy or speed of impact with the JAK inhibitor, consistently the decision is made to go with the medication that is seen as being more safe, with less laboratory monitoring and with less black box warning. So my anticipation here is that while patients will make and clinicians will make the best choice for each patient individually, it would be very reasonable to anticipate that most patients and most clinicians will select a targeted biologic over a JAK inhibitor as a first-line agent, and depending on how the patient outcome is, go from there.
Yeah, great. Thanks on the color. And again, congrats on the great data.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Your next question is from Derek Archila from Wells Fargo. Your line is now open.
Hey, good morning, and let me add my congrats on the data. Looking very good. Just a couple of questions from us, two for management and then one for Arash, if we may. So first, can you just discuss the time to SALT-20 response? And I'm just curious how that might compare to JAKs. And then on the strength of the data that you're seeing so far using the loading dose, some of those curves look pretty good on the patient anecdotes. So I just wonder, is a shorter 24-week phase 3 trial possible, or would you anticipate replicating a 36-week trial? And then for Arash, just curious, again, based on the data today, could you quantify how many more patients may look to seek treatment now with a therapy like this that are not currently being treated by JAKs? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think on the time to, it's good to talk to you, Derek, by the way. Thanks for the questions. Time to SALT 20, I think when we look at this, I think we do anticipate, given the pharmacokinetics here, that it may take a little longer to get to SALT 20, but we do have examples of patients getting there fairly rapidly. So obviously in larger studies, we may get a better look at whether there are different profiles that emerge for time to response here. Either way, we're quite encouraged to see this level of results at week 36. We're encouraged by that. We do believe endpoints for the phase 3 would need to be in the range of 36 weeks, and certainly based on other data sets, may seek to dose patients longer even if our endpoint is at week 36. We think there could be deepening effects if we continue dosing longer. So that's something we can consider, but certainly encouraged here that a 36-week endpoint is on the table for our phase 3. Second question, curves on the 24 weeks. I guess I spoke to that. We would not seek to do a 24-week trial. I think for the phase 3, we would anticipate this being a 36-week. And then I'll kick it over to Arash.
Perfect. So I think this is a really important thing to highlight, that the number of patients taking these medications for alopecia areata will expand as new drugs enter the market. So at present, it's estimated that approximately 25 to 35% of patients who are candidates for JAK inhibitors based on their alopecia areata are taking a JAK inhibitor. So about 2/3 of patients right now are not being treated or being undertreated with other medications. So a great proportion of that will likely be because of either they don't qualify for JAK inhibitors due to safety concerns, or they or their prescribers have specific concerns themselves. Introducing a new drug that has a profile of bempikibart should give another opportunity to a large proportion of those patients and may convert many of them to active use. So I would imagine up to maximum 3 times more than what we have right now, but in reality, let's say a half of those patients begin a therapeutic, it yields a lot of the market left to be realized.
Excellent, very helpful. Thanks again.
Do you want to add anything on the time to response as well? Yeah, Arash might want to add to that time to response answer.
Let me speak a little bit of time to response. So I think the one really important thing to understand with this data is that time to response is important. The time response that we're talking about, though, is a categorical outcome where you kind of pass the SALT 20 barrier. In reality, when you're taking care of these patients, they're getting better week by week by week, and they're seeing the hair regrowth, they're happy about it, they're seeing those changes, and that's really the exciting part. For the purpose of a clinical trial, we have a sharp cutoff, right? Where if you have 21% hair loss, you're a failure. If you have 18% hair loss, you're a success, right? Real life doesn't work exactly that way. So while patients want to see consistent improvement and success, when you look at the data for how they make choices based on what drugs that they pick, the number one decision factor for patients choosing a treatment for alopecia areata is safety profile. The second most important thing for them is depth of efficacy and durability of efficacy. The third is form factor, and the final thing they put on is velocity. So while we may be focused on the shape of the curve and how fast they get there, if you do this properly, velocity only occurs once, right? You regrow your hair and you keep it, and then your focus really ends up being on how much hair am I going to have, how much is that going to remain over time, and how safe is it for me to continue on this medication. And for me as a clinician, the exciting part about bempikibart is those last 3 parts in particular, where you're going to have that depth of response, but if these data hold in future studies, you're not going to have the same concerns around safety.
Gosh.
Thank you.
Thanks for the questions.
Thank you. There are no further questions at this time. I will now hand the call back over to Jodie Morrison for the closing remarks.
Thank you all for joining us this morning and for the questions, and we look forward to keeping you updated on future programs and future calls. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The conference has now ended. Thank you all for joining. You may now disconnect your lines.
Good morning. Listening to the Q32 Bio conference call, alopecia areata. Interesting little situation. I kind of don't trust this data, but I don't know if anybody else is looking at it or trading it. Sorry. How are you guys? Good morning, good morning, good morning. I actually haven't been looking at any of the World Cup stuff. So AGEN did a recap, but I'm very skeptical because it's they just did a recap with warrants. To me, that usually does not bode, well. It's really not that exciting of a company, and it's up on just the recap, which is not typically not something to get too excited about. We'll see what happens with AGEN. It'd be a good ticker for an AI company. Agentic AI. AGEN.
that drug pharmacy dude, Martin. What's his name?
Hey, that's me. Morning, guys. This is my work space, also known as an office. I work here with about 20 people who are also known as coworkers. All right. Sorry, I got a lot going on. Let me see if I can start sharing what I'm looking at here. So memory sold off over the weekend. That worked out really well for us. SK Hynix dropped pretty dramatically in Korea, which results in the US stock also dropping dramatically. What's up? Spent a lot of time on Micron this weekend. Oh man, look at that QTTB dropping. A meme stock. I think it'll go back down. It's been like just a dog forever. It's a dead cat bounce. Let's see what's trading. Nokia, this is shares by volume, which doesn't really count. If I set it down to 50 million shares by volume, the two most traded are Agenus and Q32, both about 60%. One had a pipe, which is very odd for a stock to be up on a pipe, and then one had new data. Data was okay. It was kind of, at first I was skeptical, but, as I listened to the call, it was fine. Drug does seem to be active. Hard to tell a little bit, but, I don't think you just go from bald to having hair that easily. And it's kind of like just one of these small market cap, has a biologic, certainly open label data. But again, do you go from bald to head full of hair that quickly? I don't think so. So those two, one is a short and the other one's maybe even a long, even though I was skeptical of it earlier. SVAC. I actually wanted to short this earlier. This is the SPAC that did some merger. Yeah, I got to short more AGen. I've never heard of a company do a recap and the shares get re-rated like that. I've seen it with distressed and stuff like that, but this is not that. This is just a dead biotech with a 10th in class mechanisms that, just suck in the first place. So I don't know. To me, I'm really gunning on this one. Could see it go all the way back to the pipe price. Usually with a pipe, like that pipe gets shopped around to 100 people and anybody can participate. It's not like you have like some exclusive access. So anybody could have bought it at the old price. So why would you buy it at this new price up 50%? Sort of crazy. Circle 8. I don't know what these guys are. Let's see. Circle 8's a penny stock. Probably not worth looking at here or even mentioning. Microcap. Okay, Nokia, the SPAC, Micro, Intel, NVIDIA. What's hyperscale data? Look at the ticker, GPUs. Oh, it's another penny stock. Never mind. SoFi Neo, Faraday, Micron down 5%. I think it's a long down here. I'm not long it right now. I went kind of crazy shorting all the memory on Friday. Covered early this morning. We'll see what happens. Cisco, STM, Ondas, Keel, SanDisk, I think is long. Also covered that. Plug, Opendoor, Broadcom, Joby, and Marvell, all highest volume today. It's Q32 finally dropping after a tumultuous early session. I don't know, data are okay. Maybe we want to be long this thing, who knows? But Agenus, I definitely see that going back to the 4 handle. I mean, that's just a crazy, it's kind of a meme stock. So some people, it's been like this just dead Reddit stock. All right, Spring Valley, Brain Limited with 2 I's. Okay. BRAI. No, do I have that right? BRAI. Yeah, Brain Limited. Australian company. It's like a little scam. Oh, wait, no, they have $1.5 billion market cap. This looks like a definitely worth looking into as a potential short / scam. Brain. Okay, what else we got? Blackhawk Acquisition Corp. I have never really traded these SPACs. Quantum X Labs. There's a bunch of quantum wannabes out there. A lot of little microcaps here. I set my filter to a little more open-minded to trade with some of these small caps. Set it a little more aggressive there. Icon, EIKN. It's biotech I don't know well. What do you want to look at? EIKN. All right. Losers. Julong, which we shorted on Friday. Julong. SanDisk. Cartesian. I don't know Cartesian well. RNAC. RNAI. RNAC. Axum, Rhythm. There's some old stocks I used to trade. I used to really like Rhythm when it was a small cap. There's Celsuity down 6%. Interesting there. Are they supposed to... What's supposed to happen with them? They have regulatory action, right? And you have Q. I always hated Q, but I don't know what they're up to now. Chip Moss. I don't know those guys. IMOS. Okay. PTC is also down. Don't know why. Jade. Bitfufu. My favorite company name. All right, by value, Micron's traded the most. It is down 5%. SanDisk is also down 5 or 6%. It's traded as well. NVIDIA, Intel, SpaceX down a little bit. Always a good short, I think, for now. We'll see how Elon develops the company, but it's a little premature. Broadcom, AMD, Meta. There's Agenus. Unbelievable. It's on the most traded list. What the? So it's traded $240 million worth. A little crazy there. Tesla, down 1%. Taiwan Semi flat. Marvell down a little bit. Cisco down a little bit. Again, Q32 on the most traded list as well. Apple, ASML down a little bit. Western Dig, ARM, STM, Oracle, AMAT down 4%. Palantir up slightly. All right. So definitely wild action this morning. So I spent some time on Micron. I don't think I have a final conclusion yet, but one of the things that is important to understand is concept of this company does have to spend money on CapEx, which I think, we tend to look at that EPS and feel like that's the only thing that matters. But I think it may make sense to forecast Micron cash flow. We never do all three statements. We kind of always usually just do the income statement. And that's pretty traditional on Wall Street. But I think, it may make sense for us to do all the statements just to make sure that we have good sense for kind of the what's actually going to happen to this business in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. Do we have a good handle on that? I think it's pretty important that we do. And yeah, it remains to be seen what exactly is going to be kind of Micron's cash outlay profile, as they build new fabs. And, they are promising some pretty big, new supply. And I'm not sure that the new supply is can actually help them do more business. So they have these long-term agreements. There's an analyst note at SK Hynix that these long-term agreements and HBM pricing may actually hurt them. So I don't know. I think the market tone as well is a little bit off with Micron and the whole memory pack. This was a really great trade a while back, say 6 months ago, last year. Now it feels quite crowded. I don't doubt that the companies will still outperform and do well. It certainly feels like, maybe this trade is a little bit over. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's see. What are y'all saying? So it's a taco trade setup. You're talking about the... I don't even pay attention to the Iran stuff anymore. Adisat, yeah, we should definitely look at it. I haven't looked at Ligand in a while, so see what. Yeah, they may not get an approval. JLHL trauma. Why trauma? It's just been a straight line down. What's the trauma? Market's not down because of an OpenAI lawsuit. No. Yeah, I think it's hard to know what AI demand looks like. Is that AI demand for all models, some models? Oracle, we definitely have to look at. Team Altman or Team Elon? I'd rather not answer that question. I don't know what that stock is. Don't spam the chat, though. You've asked twice now. Yeah, I know that's what they've said, Gordian Knot, but I'm not sure that that is a good thing. If margins drop, I mean, below past cycle doesn't mean anything, right? Um, yeah, exactly, Ivan. I wish I could pause time and go to the bathroom myself. It's 9:20. Market's opening in 9 minutes. Oh, terrible sniffles. Got a cold starting on Friday. Cold has not gone away, but it's been pretty manageable. Margin is one of these guys that never gets a trade wrong. You only print money, right? Every trade is good. What's your question on Godel? I don't think the Godel community would like you that much. Nattokinase. Is that a joke? Upload my watch list on GitHub? What are you talking about? My commute is 5 minutes. I wake up depending on the day, anytime. Never know. Today was very early. Don't know Ocugen. I don't think we're having guests, but I'm not sure. Yeah, the long-term supply agreements for Micron may actually hurt them in a sense that, one, it's not really clear that those supply agreements have much teeth anyway. Like, they could very easily be can they really lock people in and make them commit to the purchase? A lot of times that's not the case, and you don't want to do that to your customer. So, shorting more Agenus here. E-values. No, I've never seen E-values. That sounds really interesting. What's your job? What do you do? I'm the CEO of a company called DL Software, which makes financial software, including Godel, which I'm using right now. Go check it out, godelterminal.com. The ADR is down. It's been down all morning. Been trading it all morning. I will try, Ken. I will try. Can you ask about it in Godel? I think you may have. I just want to make sure. But I'm happy to cover it if you're asking about it in the Godel terminal. The second order of compute. Yeah, I mean, I do think that the hyperscalers can maneuver a little bit around DRAM. It's not too easy, but it's not impossible. Something to think about. Okay, yeah, just say whatever margin, I guess whatever stock you want me to look at. I don't have a watch list. I don't really operate that way. What's up, Dusty? Watch list. I mean, I watch every biotech company. Or try to. In terms of trading actively, I mean, there's like most traders, there's only a handful of stocks you can look at once, at least really, really closely. So knee deep in the memory trade, I try to. Yeah, Amaranth did get back to me, but I don't know about the story with some of the Twitch the streamer girls and the OnlyFans girls. They don't necessarily they're not the ones responding to you. Right? Some of them are They have people responding for them, and they're dudes. Good luck launching your fund. Okay, Ken. Yeah, I will look at it. Definitely. Just going to watch the open, and then also have to take a bio break at some point. But then I promise you we'll look at it. We have a screener. EQS is our screener. It's actually the first screener ever that has private companies in it that I'm aware of. So you've got Anthropic here, 1.2 billion. You guys see that in chat? Is that cool? OpenAI, 800 billion. ByteDance, 600 billion. The only screener ever with private companies. And you could go look at the chart of Anthropic. Okay. Show me. Okay, that's a quote. Okay, look at the chart of Anthropic. Amazing. How do you have, a screener and don't have private companies? And some of these screeners are so bad they don't even have some of the public companies internationally, which just makes them complete trash. But and you can of course screen for lots of different things with that, but and yeah, we're working hard on the screener. We really want to get it to a point where you really enjoy it. EQS, yeah, it was down. We were gonna redo it, and then we redid it, and it's out now, and it's, I think, quite good. Of course, I've looked at Ligand. I was Ligand's early partner with Retrophin and Sparsentan. Sparsentan is, I think, driving most of the success of Ligand lately. Agenus is just a dead company with a shitty portfolio. They got some financing done today, but that doesn't change the value of the company at all. So I think the stock will be back down to 350 before we know it. South African, we have South African stocks on Godel, of course, and Johannesburg listed. I don't trade them myself. I don't know much about South Africa or its economy. So I couldn't tell you what the big companies are or anything like that. I used to trade a stock called Aspen Pharmacare out there a long time ago. Price to cash is a cool one. Yeah, we'll definitely do that, Sam. Screener's still sort of relatively new for us. We want to make sure it's a really good screener. I'm curious what's going on with Canner, Wells Fargo. Here's the JP Morgan preview on Micron. Substantial beat and raise and major SCA expansion. Anchor a higher, more durable earnings floor. Wait, when did Micron report? Oh, they are an off-season reporter. I forgot about that. Yeah, it's all about whether these supply chain agreements are going to be sticky or not. That's the real question. Okay, AGen dropping pretty vigorously there, but also trading all over the place as we open up here. Retrace now a good chunk of its move. It's want to see it go down even further, ideally. UTTB picking up a little bit. I think that might be a buy. Not too many biologics like that you can own with some efficacy. That's maybe not a home run, but I mean, again, hard to go from bald to not bald very quickly like that. Let's see what else is going on. Okay, SanDisk down a little further from the open. Micron down 6% now. AMD down 4% now, looking a little red across the board. NVIDIA's down 50 bips. It wasn't very early. It sold it already. SpaceX, been watching that really closely. It is breaking down. It has been a downright dog. Adobe's up. Adobe's, been kind of strong. I've been enjoying Adobe. I don't own any right now, but I've been toying with it alongside. I see Bloom is down. Quantum is down a bit. SanDisk rolling over. I tried to buy some earlier, sold it all. Same thing with Micron. Now seeing 918 a Micron. Adobe screaming. Software in general. Got Sarepta, got Spruce, long both. Abivax. Yeah, Abivax is just one of these things where you just got to take time. Yeah, Bitcoin's a little scary in the long run. A lot of technology can disintermediate Bitcoin. It's not as hard money as Saylor has made it out to be. I think we all know that now. Saylor's a bit of a liar and a scumbag. He's not a really great ambassador for Bitcoin. He's sort of a bit of a, an idiot. My Genesis is coming in nicely now. I wouldn't say nicely. It's up so much, but it's like to see it off the high days there. Chamath is not a good guy. Yeah, I might be going to pitch, not pitch, but present, I guess, at the All In Summit. So I have to respond to their email. Yeah, what a bloodbath in the markets now. Micron down a bunch, SanDisk down. How's our friend SK Hynix? We went short SK Hynix on Friday. We should have. Well, actually, it's not. Yeah, it's not down as much as I thought. I actually covered it better than this price, which is wild. Dubai is going to build a new port to get out of the Strait of Hormuz. Ooh, that is that's bullish, right? Okay, don't go anywhere. Try godelterminal.com. I'll be right back. Just give me 5 minutes. Bye. Right, we back. Hello. Memory dropping, now Adobe dropping. Adobe's still up, of course. Micron and SanDisk looking disastrous. Hey, memory rallying. Hynix now only down 7% despite Korea being down 15% in Korea. Surprising. Hey, good morning. Thank you. Yeah, reading the tape's really important. I would agree. So add a set. ACET, $9. Stock was trading at cash a while back. I don't even have a model. Okay. Oh, this is a pretty small cap. 84 million cap, is that right? Yeah. Oh, interesting. Oh, wow, they have a lot of cash. Yeah, usually when you have a below cash stock, I mean, it could be exciting, but there's a reason it's below cash, typically. Debt here. No, it doesn't look like any liabilities. Is this Kevin Tang's company? I like Kevin. He's pretty smart. RA. Maybe Tang doesn't show up on my thing here. Oh no, there he is. Is he there? Thought we just saw him. He should show up. Have to see. Didn't he offer to buy the company and then he didn't, and for a while he was a big shareholder. Earning revisions are like the most important thing, yeah. I mean, if a company's going to be making more money, it could suggest long-term trajectory changes, things like that. Which trade journal are you talking about, Frogman? Hold on. Check.